the old songs, the good old songs for me. I love to hear those minor chords and good close harmony. Down our way, both night and day, you know everybody and they all know you. And even the mayor says, how do you do? Pals by the score and gals galore, and that old gang of mine, they sang Sweet Adeline. Down our way, down our way.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're here tonight to celebrate the 75th anniversary of this building, Milwaukie City Hall. Now, before they get too far away, I also want to give a round of applause to the new minstrel singers for their performance tonight. Thank you very much. So tonight we are honored to have our friends from the American Legion Post 180 and its honor guard with us to raise our national, state, and city flags. I'm really thrilled that this past year the city and the Legion have been such great partners. We've joined forces and become the first city in the Northwest to enter the United States Department of Defense's Vietnam War Commemorative Partner Program. And thanks to the assistance of one of our resident volunteers, Linda Hedges, the Legion is also the city's first and only American Red Cross recognized shelter. That's right. So audience, if you would please rise and face the flagpoles. I'm going to ask the American Legion to raise the flags and for the Milwaukie High School Choir to sing the national anthem. At running the risk of missing a few elected officials, I'm actually going to ask elected officials that are in attendance tonight if you would stand up, because I have a list, but I'm afraid I may miss a few. Metro Councilor Carlotta Collette is here tonight. We have representatives from TriMet Board of Directors. We have Mayor Wade Byers from Gladstone here tonight. There he is back there. We have representatives from the Board of County Commissioners. I know I saw, who did I see? Paul Savas is here. There's Paul. Who else am I missing? Jim Bernard. Well, Jim Bernard's up here. He's a guest speaker. Yeah, I was going to introduce them separately, but welcome, Jim. But anyway, we have put out the call to a number of elected officials, and I see a number of you here tonight. Thank you so much for attending. Representatives from Senator Merkley's office is here. So thank you, everyone, for coming out in attendance tonight. There's a number of folks that also are here representing past councils and past council members and families. And one individual I'd like to recognize special tonight is Bud Burdick. Bud is the son of the mayor who opened City Hall 75 years ago. It's fantastic to have you here tonight, and best wishes to your wife as she recovers. Our next speaker tonight, and we have a number of speakers tonight. We have Congressman Kurt Schrader here tonight. We have Carolyn Tomei, your 41st District representative here in Milwaukee. We have County Commissioner Jim Bernard. We have Tom Hogan, the chair of our poetry series. And then we have Milwaukee City Council members, Council President David Hughes. I have done that so many times. David Hedges. He gave me a hard time earlier, so I don't feel bad about messing up his name. Scott Churchill is with us tonight. He's a city councilor. I'm glad I pronounced your name right, because he gets even. Mark Gamba and Mike Miller. Our next speaker tonight has deep roots in Clackamas County. A business owner, volunteer, and government leader for over 20 years. After the 2010 census, Milwaukee became part of the 5th Congressional District. So please welcome our representative of Congress, Kurt Schrader.
Wow, it's an honor to be here, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity to come at this great moment. One of the oldest cities in Clackamas County, celebrating 75th anniversary. That is pretty awesome. This building behind us, I'd like to think, represents not just the past, but perhaps a path to the future. Back when this was built in the 30s, it was a partnership between local governments, private enterprise, and the federal government. It was the last PWA project that was done in the state of Oregon. And I hope it's not the last that's going to be done in this type of public partnership between different agencies, different groups, different levels of government, because in this day and age, the money's tight. It's not tight just at home or at work. I had the privilege of touring some of the businesses. It's nice to see Milwaukee really growing and becoming more and more invigorated. But it's tight at our federal and state and county levels too, and our city levels. It's, times are tough. But one thing I've learned about Oregonians, after being back east in Washington, D.C., we got the can-do attitude. We can make things happen if we just band together. It doesn't take a lot of money. It takes a lot of willpower, a lot of initiative, a lot of I can get together and work with my neighbor and make things happen. And I think that's what this building represents to me. This is a pathway to the future. It's a beautiful building. They keep it nice. And I think it's going to be the centerpiece of an invigorated, growing Milwaukee. This is the new place to come to. The 20-somethings, they're tired of Northwest Portland, man. They want to be coming here, right? The firemen and the police guys really want them to come here. I'm just saying that. But in honor of my token contribution to this great celebration, I'm proud to be a part of as your new representative of the United States Congress. Hope the pastor has a lot of blessings for us. We got a tough week coming up ahead of us, and hope you keep us in our prayers. But we had a flag flown over the capital of the United States on August 8th that we want to share with our partners here at the local level to symbolize the partnership between the federal government and the great city of Milwaukee. I'd like to present this to Mayor Ferguson, if I may.
Thank you so much, Congressman Schrader. It's a pleasure to have you out here tonight, and thank you so much for the flag. We hope to proudly display that in the lobby of City Hall. Our next guest also got her start in politics by serving on a planning commission right here in Milwaukie, actually. In 1996, she joined Milwaukie City Council, and in 1998, she had my position as mayor of the city of Milwaukie. And then in 2001, she went off to serve as the representative of the 41st District in Oregon State Legislature. Please welcome our state representative, Carolyn Tomei.
So I bring you greetings from the Oregon State Legislature. We're saying happy birthday to the Milwaukie City Hall. Ed Zumwalt told me to be short, and I promised I would be. I want to thank Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the Works Progress Administration for conceiving of and building this beautiful structure. I also want to thank past and present City Council members, city staff, and hundreds, if not thousands, of citizen volunteers on numerous boards and commissions who have had the vision and have worked hard to create this wonderful city that we all are fortunate to call home. Milwaukie has changed in the 47 years that I've lived here and raised my family, but we still have a wonderful, walkable, tree-lined Main Street and the downtown that is the envy of many cities that do not have an identifiable downtown area. We have one of the most acclaimed, popular, and well-loved libraries in our state. We have great schools. I see our school superintendent is here. Thank you for coming. Milwaukie Bay is the most beautiful riverfront in all of the metropolitan area. It is more visible and accessible than it has ever been in our city's history, and soon it will be a wonderful park open to all of our citizens and our neighbors. So I salute our past 75 years in this building, and I'm excited to look forward to the next 75 years. Thank you.
Thank you, former mayor. Our next speaker was born and raised in Milwaukie and also served as Milwaukee's mayor from 2001 to 2009. His father, Joe, served as mayor of our city in the 1960s. And Jim was elected to the Clackamas County Commission in 2008. So please welcome back to Milwaukie, Clackamas County Commissioner Jim Bernard.
Well, when I was elected mayor in 2001, my office was right up there. I had long brown hair and a full head of it. So politics can be a challenge, but you know, I know we're here to celebrate a building, but that's really not what's important. What's important is what holds the building up and what has held the building together for 75 years. And that's all of you people, the citizens of Milwaukie. And like the mayor said, $1 million worth of volunteers every year. We could not have ever made it without you. So thanks really goes to you. And the foundation that holds up this this city hall is a strong one that will continue on and on. When I became mayor in 2003, we celebrated the 100th anniversary of the city, and we had a lot of fun. We did a play. All the city councilors and the family of the first mayor of Milwaukie was also there. They started it, and we're here now, and I hope to see us here in another 100 years. So thank you very much.
Thank you, former mayor. So I don't get to attend many events where we have 3 consecutive mayors all in presence in the same place at the same time. So it's kind of fun when that happens here. Our next order of business is to give you a little bit of the rundown of what was going on in history during the time of the construction of City Hall all the way through to present day, and then what things are going to look like here in the future. So we'll have Councilor Hedges, Councilor Miller, Councilor Churchill, and then Councilor Gamble will follow. So here's what the world looked like in 1938. Franklin D. Roosevelt is president, and Earl S. Burdick is the mayor of Milwaukie. And as I mentioned, we're honored to have his son here with us today. The population of Milwaukie was a bustling 1,800 people. In March, oil is discovered in Saudi Arabia, and Frank Capra wins Best Director. Spencer Tracy wins Best Actor, and Bette Davis wins Best Actress at the Academy Awards. In April of 1938, Superman makes his first appearance in Action Comics #1. Well, Dark Horse Comics is right across the street, keep in mind. If anybody from Dark Horse is here, that bullet point was for you. On July 3rd, the last reunion of the Civil War, yes, Civil War veterans, marks the 75th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg. On July 7, Milwaukie City Hall is dedicated, followed by a weekend-long celebration featuring a parade, dance, baseball, volleyball games, a Vesper service, and competitive races. Be thankful you're here today for only an hour celebration. On August 4, Milwaukie City Hall is occupied by city staff, including the fire department, police department, municipal court, and library, as well as the council and administration. Just a little bit of contrast today, we have about 6 different properties to house those same departments. On September 30th, British Prime Minister Chamberlain declares that there will be peace for our time upon returning from a conference with Adolf Hitler in Germany. In October, the New York Yankees win the World Series, sweeping the Chicago Cubs, and Orson Welles' radio adaptation of the War of the Worlds causes panic across the country. And in 1938, as it comes to a close, Adolf Hitler is declared as Time's Man of the Year. And to continue on, I would like to ask Councillor Hedges to come up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Mayor suggested we put our own little spin on the facts that we've been given, and I thought I'd make a special effort tonight in the hope that he might actually remember who I am afterwards. 1939. The sidewalks were in pristine condition. The roads of Milwaukie had no potholes in them, much as they are today. There was a contraption on wheels that carried people from one place to another. It was called the trolley. There's some rails back there. So whatever happened all those years ago comes round in full circle. 1939, World War II for 6 years, and over 60 million people died, including 45 sons and daughters of Milwaukie. One little fact you might not know, the first American that he has the unfortunate distinction to be the first American killed in combat in World War II was actually killed over the fields of Kent in southern England, flying a Spitfire in the Battle of Britain, and what was a desperate effort to keep the country I was going to be born in free. And it's a debt that myself and most of my fellow countrymen have never forgotten. In July of 1945, Louis D. Kelsey is named Milwaukee's first city manager. The year 1947 marks the 100th anniversary since the founding of Milwaukie by Lot Whitcomb. That same year, the Milwaukie Police Department purchased its first patrol car, a Chevy sedan. And if only we had it now, it would probably pay off the city debt. 1952, the Friends of Milwaukie Library was founded, and I was surprised when I read that. I have to admit I didn't know they had been in existence for the length of time they had. And thank them now for all the good works they've done for our library and for our city over the years they've been in existence. The Korean War begins in 1950 and ends in a ceasefire which still goes on to this day, the ceasefire starting in 1953. In June 1955, former President Harry Truman visits the North Clackamas area. The Federal Aid Highways Act of 1956 authorises construction of a nationwide network of freeways that form the national highway system, forever changing the pace of travel. In February 1956, Milwaukie Assistant Fire Chief Warren Knotts was tragically drowned while attempting to save a father and son who had fallen through the ice on Kerald Lake. In 1953, the interurban streetcar service, the trolley, ends after 65 years running through Milwaukie. We knew it wouldn't last. Carrying commuters from Portland to Oregon City. And the new one's going to carry commuters from Portland to Oak Grove, and I bet one day to Oregon City. In 1956, US Senator John F. Kennedy visits Milwaukie, stopping by the offices of the Milwaukie Review and visiting with Monroe Sweetland, editor and resident of Milwaukie, who is credited with being the father of the modern Democratic Party in Oregon. In 1961, Florence Ledding, widow of one-time city councillor Herman Ledding and stepdaughter of town founder Seth Llewellyn, bequeaths her home and property to the city for a library. And if ever a city's been given a gift which is proof of such great worth and benefit to this city, that was surely it. In June 1961, the original St. John Episcopal Church building is floated down the Willamette from Milwaukie to its present home in Oaks Park in Portland. To take us on from that area, Councillor Mike Miller.
Thank you very much. I'm going to start out by saying I became a Milwaukie resident in 1966 when I came to set up a plant science horticulture program for Portland Public Schools. My first home was in Ardenwald, and my two oldest children attended Ardenwald School. Not the school that's there today, the one that we all cherished and was sad to see go away, but no, things change. During the years 1963 to 1987, our city experienced some notable historic events. Three major businesses, which were landmarks, no longer are with us. A men's clothing store named the Gay Blade, Perry's Pharmacy, and its famous soda fountain, and the Safeway store, which was located on the property next door, which is now the North Main Project. In 1963, we entered the Vietnam War. Two young men I taught at Eddyville High School my first year lost their lives in the war, as well as a close family friend did not come home. This war had a dramatic effect on a lot of us, myself included, and a lot of us in this city. As a part of this city's remembrance, the American Legion is preparing a celebratory program for our city in 2015 to coincide with the festival of that summer. In 1965, the city approved its first $1 million budget. After being turned down twice, it was approved, but in the process, the mayor and one city councilor resigned. In 1968, Robert Kennedy visited our county in his quest to be the president. It was a very interesting time in my life in Milwaukie, as my father was one of his Oregon campaign managers. My father spent the evening with him before he went to California and lost his life. I had the good fortune to have the opportunity to meet him, as well as meeting folks like Wayne Morris, Monroe Sweetland, and some really fine political people of that time. That same year, Dwyer Hospital opened, and the Milwaukie Center opened at North Clackamas Park. In concluding, in 1981, the Clackamas Town Center opened, and Milwaukie welcomed its first female mayor, Joy Burgess. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Miller. My name is Scott Churchill, and I'm also one of the city councilors. I've been asked to speak about Milwaukie City Hall history from 1988 to 2013. In 1988, Roger Hall was the mayor of Milwaukee. City Hall had aged a bit from its birth in 1938. In June of that year, City Council approved new centralized heating, cooling, and ventilating systems to replace the original boiler and the through-wall air conditioning units that visually cluttered the side of the building. So that's a huge improvement that exists today. I've also been able to dig up some very rare unknown facts about City Hall as well, what was happening at the time. In 1988, as a result of Mount St. Helens eruption earlier in this decade, a leading local Milwaukee entrepreneur became a millionaire overnight through selling small bottles of mountain ash worldwide. So successful was this endeavor that in 1988, he told local press that he had all the ash he could handle and closed the doors of his mail order business while keeping a wistful eye towards the council chambers in beautiful Milwaukee City Hall. On the international scene in 1989, the Berlin Wall fails. And yet, Milwaukee City Hall still stands. Like that distant city in Germany, communication between residents in the eastern part of Milwaukee and those west of Highway 224 continue to improve. In 1989, on October 17th, Northern California experienced a huge earthquake, a 7.1 magnitude earthquake along the San Andreas Fault during Game 3 of the World Series playoff at Candlestick Park. Shock waves were felt as far north as Gladstone, and yet City Hall stood still. In March of 1994, the city's public safety building housing the police and fire department is dedicated, adding to the list of important civic buildings, including City Hall, maintained by Willie Miller and his team. And we thank Willie very much for his efforts. In 1996, public transportation ideas were once again on the minds of City Council and the citizens. Light rail was proposed on the ballot measure along with the alignment up Monroe Street, narrowly missing City Hall. Citizens voted it down in 1996 and again in 1998, some demanding that they wanted a bigger and faster MAX, preferably closer to school zones. But MAX had to be patient. Its time had not yet come. In 2003, the city celebrated the 100th anniversary, a year of activities and events, including a reenactment of the first City Council meeting in City Hall. And it's interesting to note that the work session ran long due to a lengthy discussion about sidewalks and their relation to street trees. True fact. In 2009, Light Rail returns to Clackamas County with TriMet Max Green Line providing services to Clackamas County Town Center from downtown Portland. Also in 2009, ex-mayor Jim Bernard is replaced by longtime resident and community volunteer Jeremy Ferguson, our current mayor. And soon afterwards, Milwaukee City Hall receives a maintenance uplift, including replacement of many key windows for better visibility and transparency. In 2011, the first Interstate City Bank was renovated on the corner of Main and Monroe and is completed. Shortly afterwards, the world-famous Enchanté Chocolatier occupies the ground floor, thereby increasing the number of dental practices in Milwaukee by 30%. In December 2012, the cities of Milwaukee and Happy Valley reached tentative agreement on future growth boundaries and settled with pro bono legal guidance from the firm of Robert Hatfield and James McCoy, LLC. Later, the city proclaimed December 18, 2012 as Ed Zumwalt Volunteer Day. And he was awarded the Golden Shovel Award, which he proceeds his volunteer work with to clean up areas in the city, including City Hall. And I believe Ed is now at the south end of town, still working his way north, cleaning up the area. Now, my history of Milwaukee City Hall from 1988 to 2013 would not be complete without looking at our conditions today. And I want to thank our general contractor who is rebuilding our ADA ramps at many of our downtown sidewalk locations for the demonstration of the importance of keeping a clear path for all our citizens, especially the visually impaired and handicapped. So as you leave tonight, I hope you'll remember that how important ADA ramps are important for our citizens here in Milwaukee. The obstacle course they have set up for us today reminds us of the importance of this federally mandated ADA law and how difficult it is to navigate our sidewalks when one has mobility challenges. I have been told the completion of this work will take place sometime in the future. And on that note, brings us to the next section of our presentation, the future of Milwaukie, as seen through the eyes of Councillor Mark Gamba. Mark?
Thanks, Scott. I expect that the ramps should be done sometime by 2017. So this is just a list of possibilities, but I think it's within our collective power to make it more than that. In 2014, Milwaukee's living room, Riverfront Park, begins phase 2 with a new boat ramp and expanded amenities. In 2015, light rail returns to downtown Milwaukie with the Max Orange Line providing service to Milwaukie and Oak Grove from downtown Portland. That same year, the missing link between the trolley trail and the Springwater corridor is completed, and cyclists can ride safely from Gladstone to the Steel Bridge and beyond. In 2016, salmon and other native fish returned to Kellogg and Mount Scott Creeks with the removal of Kellogg Dam, the restoration of Kellogg Creek, and the blossoming of Oregon's first permaculture park at Kronberg. That year also finds the South Downtown under construction as the city's plaza begins to take shape, surrounded by new shops, restaurants, and LEED-certified live-work spaces. Construction begins on Railroad Avenue to include a bike and pedestrian path from Harrison all the way to the Three Creeks bike path built by the county. In 2017, the newly expanded Ledding Library, the first living building library in the country, holds its grand opening, and neighborhood picnics are held in the recently completed Wichita, Balfour, Bowman Bray parks. That year also marks the completion of the greenways along Stanley and Monroe Avenues, and kids are now able to ride their bikes to school safely. In 2018, redevelopment continues apace in the North Industrial area with a number of alternative energy startups creating live-work spaces, and Breakside's Stonehouse Brew Pub is voted #1 in the metro region. In 2019, the Dark Horse Museum of Comic and Fantasy opens in downtown, and fans from around the world flock to it. In 2020, the census finds that Milwaukie has the lowest unemployment in the state. In 2023, the bike and pedestrian bridge across 224 is completed on Monroe Avenue, and neighborhoods are finally connected to downtown. The Kellogg treatment plant is completely rebuilt and disappears under an extension of Riverfront Park. In 2025, the Milwaukie Performing Arts Center opens next to the year-round covered farmers market. In 2035, our light rail line connects us to the Hyperloop station, where we can board a pod for a 5-minute trip to Seattle. By 2038, the lines blur between Riverfront Park, Kronberg Park, and downtown. They are filled with beautiful big trees, green space, and active, happy people. The pace of life is slower, and people have time to enjoy nature's beauty, pursue artistic interests, and help make their community a better place to live, work, and play.
Thank you to all my city councilors for putting their own flair into their comments tonight. Many of those I didn't see coming, but it was fantastic. And to comment on some of Mark's points over the next things happening in the future, I actually had a hard time understanding which things were real and which things were fantasy, because a lot of those things are going to happen. It's all real, that's right. So as our opening comes to a close, I thought we should wrap up by asking our poetry series chair, Tom Hogan, to come up and share a poem which he's written for City Hall. If you don't know about Milwaukee's poetry series, we're entering the 7th successful season, and it's been fantastic. We've taken displays down to the League of Oregon City conferences and received recognition. We've been in the newspaper. We've received statewide acclaim over our poetry series. So I want to introduce to you now Tom Hogan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I want to say first, congratulations to Milwaukie. I want to thank the mayor, all the former mayors, Congressman Schrader, the city councilors, for all of the service and effort that you put into the city, and all of those that have gone before you at the city. I also want to thank all of the people that worked on this and put this together. Thank you to the committee, and especially thank you for the great honor of inviting me to prepare an original poem for this occasion. It's been really wonderful to learn more about the New Deal programs, the WPA, the PWA, and also to look at and think about city halls and the organism that a city hall is and what it means to a community. So, Milwaukie City Hall. It was kind of a fairy tale in late 1936 when Milwaukie learned that the new City Hall, long overdue, some said, would be constructed 2 stories high of deep magenta brick fired in a county kiln. The regional director of the PWA said it was possible. Not only that, they wanted to do it. FDR made this happen, like hundreds of projects across the country during this depression, when workers laid brick for $1 an hour, and one named Don left some of his soul on the ceiling of City Hall and what is now the work session room. On some days when the light is just right, you may be able to make it out. For over 7 decades, City Hall has endured more than a diamond in the rough, lifting the city up through the past, anchoring it all the way to the present, like a pulsating organism out of Carl Sandburg's Chicago. Today, maples flourish outside the city manager's window of a city hall that lives as a center for all who need its breath. Eldon, a farmer coming for his land report. Mr. Jeffers, the contractor for his water permits. Planning committee folks projecting the future. The judge arriving for his traffic court. A just married receptionist filing her nails before fingering her computer. A reluctant teenager slouching in to pay his littering ticket. Engaged, constantly emerging, avoiding the acedia befalling other cities, Milwaukie City Hall at 75 nurtures the city still, streamlining like a Burlington Zephyr up the line to the future. Milwaukie City Hall. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Tom. Well, we are coming to a close, but I want to say some thank yous. If you have a program, on the back of the program, there's special thanks to our partners. There's a few I want to call out special tonight. American Legion Post 180, thank you for your continued support in the community. Right behind me on the fire bay doors, you see some beautiful art colors. These colors represent some of the popular colors back in 1938, and I want to thank the art mob for decorating that so we can have a beautiful backdrop. You see some fire trucks out here, including a vintage fire truck. I want to thank Clackamas Fire District for their support of Milwaukie, and specifically the fire chief. He couldn't make it here tonight, but Fred Charlton actually got his start in the fire department right here at this fire station back in the 1990s. So a big shout out to Milwaukie Fire Department, Clackamas Fire District. Milwaukie High School Choir, thanks for singing the national anthem. Our neighborhood associations, in fact, tonight I see Debbie Patton is representing the Lake Road Neighborhood Association in her pirate gear. Arr, thank you. There's so many partners, I could go on, but there's three people I want to especially call out tonight, and they are the folks that really headed up the celebration and really kind of thought up this event. Our city recorder, Pat Duvall. Pat, where are you? She's way back in the back. Hannah Wells, she works in Pat's office. Hannah, where are you? She's way over there by the cake. Hannah, thank you. Elizabeth, there was another person I want to thank. Thank you, Elizabeth, for your help. And then Scott Stauffer in the city recorder's office as well. He's sporting a Blumenauer tie. So thank you all I want to thank the city staff for all the efforts that they put into making this happen tonight. If you haven't been on the city's website, check out the history of Milwaukie. There's some great information about past city council members, past mayors, what was going on back in the time. So just some great updates on the webpage. So without any further ado, we're going to wrap up our opening remarks. Please join us for cake over underneath the canopy. And then there's a few of us that are going to do a ceremonial dogwood tree planting provided by TriMet to help demonstrate our continued relationship between the city of Milwaukie and TriMet. And don't forget to miss... don't forget to not miss. Wow. Councilor Scott Churchill has has a great talk tonight about not only the architecture of City Hall, but also some pieces of history. So don't forget to check that out. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. It's up in council chambers. There's also going to be some great pieces from the Historic Society up there. So thanks everyone for coming out tonight, and please stick around and enjoy the First Friday festivities. There's a fundraiser for Annie Ross House across the street. We've got some adorable little girls selling lemonade for $1 a glass to benefit the Annie Ross House. Grab some cake and have some fun. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, this city was a city by the bay, is that right?
By the bay. I don't know. I wasn't at San Francisco was the city by the bay, wasn't it?
I mean the port on the Willamette. You know, this was a major port. 150 tall ships per year would pull in here. We could have seen their masts from right here as they came into the port of Milwaukie, the major port. And this city by the sea had major industries. Right over here, downriver from this point, was a nursery owned by Seth and Henderson Llewellyn. Remember those guys?
Well, you know, I thought this was actually the Milwaukie was a port for beer, you know, but actually I thought Milwaukie beer, but now it's Milwaukie port. So I guess they got into the wine business too, didn't they?
Well, I understood that at Seth and Henderson Llewellyn's place, they grew all sorts of apples, cherries, pears. They even named one for a special person.
Chinese cook? Bing. Well, the cherry. I mean, we're talking about Bing cherries. I thought it was for. Oh, yeah. I thought that was for Bing Crosby. You know, I thought he invented the cherry, but I guess he had a lot of girlfriends. You know, but anyway, yeah, Bing cherries, and also they grew a lot of apples here. And actually, those apples were actually sold to California during the gold rush days, and so they made plenty of bucks that way.
So the big picture here was a nursery to the south here, about 50-some acres on the river. Now Waverly Golf Club. Beautiful port facility in the harbor here, the natural harbor that we call Milwaukie, 150 tall ships. And now we got to sing a little bit about this place and the fact that a lot of Irishmen were here at one point too. Wild Irish.
My wild Irish rose, the sweetest flower that grows. You may search everywhere, but none can compare with my wild Irish rose, my wild Irish rose, my rose, the dearest flower that grows. And someday for my sake she may let me take the bloom from my wild Irish rose. My rose, the bloom from my wild Irish rose. Wild Irish rose.
Now, there were some captains out here in this area. There were captains from Portland, which wasn't even thought of yet. They were trying to make Portland. One of them was clearing some land 15 miles below here, and he called it a great marketing name, the clearing at 15 miles. We'll tell you why that didn't work too well. There's another one, Captain Ainsworth, that was a brand new captain from the East Coast. He came here with some aspirations of piloting the Lot Whitcomb and other vessels. And then there was also Lot Whitcomb himself, who built all sorts of vessels. And we got a song that Captain Cooch, when he left the east side, left the area on the East Coast and said goodbye.
Oh, goodbye, my Coney Island baby. Farewell, my own true love. I'm gonna go away and leave you, never to see you any.
Never gonna see you any.
I'm gonna sail upon that ferry boat, never to return again. So goodbye,
Farewell.
love forever. Goodbye, my Coney Isle. Goodbye, my Coney Isle. Goodbye, my Coney Island. We all fall for some girl that dresses neat, some girl that's got big feet. We meet her on the street, then we'll join the army of married boobs to the altar.
Just like leading lambs to slaughter.
When it's over, oh boy, we get it good. Bachelor days we then recall. Rich men, poor men, beggar men, thief, doctor, lawyer, merchant, chief. We all are bound for goodbye, my Coney Island baby. Farewell, my own true love.
True love, my honey.
I'm gonna go away and leave you, never to see you any.
Never gonna see you any.
I'm gonna sail upon that ferry boat, never to return again. So goodbye,
Farewell.
love forever.
Bum.
Goodbye, my Coney Isle. Goodbye, my Coney Isle. Goodbye, my Coney Island babe.
Now this Port of Milwaukie. Boy, the microphone changed there. Thank you. Port of Milwaukie here. 150 tall ships over there. Flour mills a little bit farther upriver. A big island over there, which we're going to talk about, Elk Rock and so forth. But this harbor was a place where you had commerce emanating on the West Coast. This and San Francisco Bay were the ports, not Seattle. That was an afterthought yet to come. Not Portland. It hadn't happened yet. This was the place where you bought your lumber, where you bought your produce, and all sorts of things. We had flour mills here that would meet the needs of those in California. We had the gold rush demanding lots of timber that would be sent on those sailing ships to Sutter's Mill and places like that in California. And we had apples, too.
Well, we had plenty of apples. I mean, that was when the first settlers first came here. That's what they did with the land. They actually did grow apples, and they actually made a lot of those apples, and they sent all those apples to California, most of them, and that's during the gold rush days. And that's why we are very famous for our apples and our pears. And they do grow a lot of vegetables here, and you've probably heard about that ho 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 green giant. Well, that guy was from here.
We also had some creeks around here. Is that right? Creeks?
Creeks, yeah, Kellogg Creek.
Go for
was there.
microphone.
Kellogg Creek.
What do you mean creeks? What were their names?
Kellogg Creek?
Kellogg Creek. What else?
Let's see, there was another creek there.
Well, we had Johnson Creek, Kellogg Creek, We had the Willamette, of course, which is bigger than a creek.
yeah.
Okay. And then we had, believe it or not, the historic Clackamas River came right through where we are today. Underneath this building and these grounds right here are Clackamas River gravels. And it made a lot of racket when that river was carrying its load. What did it sound like?
Clunk, 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 clunk.
Clunk, clunk, clunk. The Indians named it for the sound that the river made during high floods. This area was its mouth at one time, and Ross Island, just a little bit farther north from us, that was its delta at one time. So Clunkamus and the sound of rolling boulders during the great floods was the activity of that Clackamas River. Okay, we got a song about how it was for the farmers here who were busy all the time producing the crops, and they had to say hello to their wife occasionally, and this is what they said. Oh, honey. Come on up, please.
Oh, honey, honey, bless your heart. Oh, honey, that I love so well, I done been true, my gal, to you. You're the honey that I love so well. Little eyes, I love you, little eyes, I love you in the spring and in the fall.
Honey, 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 honey.
Little eyes, I love you, little eyes, I love you best of all.
Honey, 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 honey.
Little eyes, I love you, little eyes, I love you in the spring and in the fall.
Honey, 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 honey.
Little eyes, I love you, little eyes, I love you best of all.
Honey, 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 honey.
Honey that I love so well.
Now that Donald Kerr guy, we talked about him briefly. You know, he was such a wealthy man. I must tell you how he got his wealth. Has Seth and Henderson Llewellyn down here, they had the canning, the operation for all that fruit production, but no way to can it. And he came up with a system that today is the first. It's the Kerr bottling system. You know what I mean? Not the Mason system of bottling, but the Kerr bottling system, which was pressure cooking, special glass jars, special sealing techniques. That was his invention. He got really wealthy. He had so much wealth, he bought an island. He was from across the river. He didn't give it to Milwaukie. He gave it to Portland, who still owns it. It's called Elk Rock Island. Now, why is it called Elk Rock?
Well, because they call it Elk Rock because there's a bunch of deer and elk that used to actually go over there, and actually they dump those elks over the side, you know, which is not a very cool thing, you know.
You mean to tell me that the modern peoples or the old peoples, I don't know who it was, they drove the deer and the elk over the side of that rock? Is that true?
That's true.
You wouldn't do that to the baritone, would you?
Not,
Oh, yes, yes.
maybe later.
So the truth about Elk Rock Island is the natives in this area, the Chinookan Indians of this region, drove them across from the Tualatin Hills, Tualatin Plains through the Tualatin Hills over that ridge, and those deer and elk fell in the river where they were kind of disoriented, like I would be if I was pushed over it. You wouldn't do that, would you?
I'll give you a shove.
And the long short of it is that was a great hunting technique used right here adjoining Elk Rock Island. Now, we got to tell you about somebody else besides Donald Kerr. We got to tell you about steamboat people, but we got a song especially named for a steamboat that we like a lot.
Well, wasn't that steamboat called Caroline?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Sweet honey.
Bum, bum, bum.
Caroline, please be mine. You're my kind of girl. surrounds you, and there's no one around you but me. Caroline, please be mine. You're my kind of girl. Caroline girl, Caroline girl.
This first steamboat in this area was built by no less than the founder of this place, Lot Whitcomb, and it was called the Lot Whitcomb. And it had paddles on either side, kind of like our tenor has ears on either side of his head, amidships. Well, those paddle wheels amidships was nice, and they were basically patterned after the Ohio River boats. They were fast and maneuverable. They could move those wheels back and forth, forward or astern, and maneuver quickly. But the problem was, this river goes up and down because of the tide. You know, the tide came in an hour ago. 140 miles it's been pushing its way up the Columbia. 100 miles up the Columbia. 40 miles to Willamette Falls, can't go any farther than that, and raised the river 5 feet right now. When it went down, those steamboats, those paddle wheels amidships would get stuck in the mud. So they came up with a new idea, right, Mr. Tenor?
Yeah, wheel in the back.
Wheel in the back. The Jenny Clark was developed here. They put the wheel astern, and that design allowed them then to come into shallow areas, take on freight, and then start the wheel in reverse and send a pulse of water underneath the hull, and it would pop off like a cork. That's the stern wheel design from Milwaukie, Oregon. The stern wheel design happened here in America first, and it was the Jenny Clark.
No.
Now you see.
Don't make stuff up.
Yeah, that's.
Down by the old mill stream, where I first met you, with your eyes of blue, dressed in gingham too. It was there that I knew that you loved me too. You were 16, sweet 16, my village queen, by the old mill stream, by the old